Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the 4 best ways that you can get rid of green water algae in your aquarium. So green water algae can be super annoying, super fast spreading, and it can take up a lot of time and maintenance when you do get it in your aquarium. Now, if you don't know what green water algae is, it's actually a single cell phytoplankton, and it just sort of is suspended in your water column, and when it builds up in these massive quantities, then it does make your aquarium look very green. And a lot of people can be scared by that. If I'm being honest, green water isn't too bad. The main reason you don't want it in your aquarium is just for aesthetic appeal. It doesn't really affect your aquarium too much whatsoever. It can get a little bit problematic if it stays green for a prolonged period of time, but if it's just every now and then outbreaking with a little bit of green water, then there shouldn't be any major risks. So yeah, for today's video, I've picked out 4 of the best methods to help you prevent and get rid of green water algae in your aquarium. But with that said, without any further ado, let's just jump straight into today's video with the first method on our list. So as for method number 1 of how you can prevent and get rid of green water algae in your aquarium, it's going to be controlling your lighting. So green water algae really flourishes in super high intense light, or in an aquarium where the light duration is really long. So a lot of the time, if you have like outdoor setups, say ponds or just outdoor aquariums, even aquariums near windows, they will usually have a higher risk of outbreaking with green water, just because the sun is up for a lot longer than you should be having your aquarium light on for. And if your aquarium is able to receive light from the sun, then that green water has a very good chance at being able to grow in your aquarium. As for your tanks that, aren't getting any sunlight, you really don't want your aquarium light on for any longer than 8 to 10 hours. Now this obviously does depend on what intensity your light is, what spectrum it is, all of that. But for the most part, 8 to 10 hours is a pretty universal sort of duration you want your light on for. Now in saying that as well, it really is up to how your aquarium reacts to your lighting duration. Some aquariums may need a longer lighting duration, some may need a shorter lighting duration, but really the whole goal of your lighting duration, I guess, is to make sure your plants are getting enough light and they're flourishing, but algae isn't able to outbreak in your aquarium. So you really would just want to find the sweet spot between that. And once you find that, then it's pretty easy. You can just use like a light timer or even just a regular timer, plug it into the outlet on your wall, plug your light into that, and that makes it a whole lot easier when it comes to making sure your lighting duration isn't on for too long. Now what you can do, if you've already noticed that this green water is in your aquarium, you can do a full blackout on your aquarium. So a blackout is basically where you turn all your lights off, put like a towel or some really like thick, dense material over your aquarium. So you're trying to minimize as much light getting through as possible. And this just creates an unideal environment for this algae to grow in. It should be fine for your plants. You don't want this for any more than like a week, I guess. I've never really done an intense blackout aquarium before. I've only done it for a few days and it works pretty well. But yeah, usually it doesn't affect your plants too much. They may melt back a little bit, but they'll be able to bounce back quite easily. But the algae is really affected by this, and it's a very effective way of actually killing the algae in your aquarium. But yeah, with that being said, if you wanting to prevent or get rid of green water algae in your aquarium, the best thing to do is make sure you're controlling your light cycle. Moving on to the next method on our list. This one is, I guess, another pretty obvious one, and that's making sure you're not having excessive nutrients in your aquarium. So pretty much all algae thrives off excessive nutrients, and green water algae is no different. When there's an abundance of excess nutrients in your aquarium that your plants aren't able to use, then the algae will just come in and use all that, and it'll really start to flourish in your aquarium. So excess nutrients can come around in your aquarium when you've got decaying fish waste, decaying fish food, and even just any other decaying organic matter. And in a heavily planted aquarium, usually this doesn't really have any sort of effect on your aquarium. Plants will be able to use it up very quickly, but if your aquarium doesn't have enough plants or it's just got too much nutrients, then the algae, like I said, does come in and it absolutely thrives. So there's a few ways you can control the nutrient levels in your aquarium. Number 1, you just want to heavily plant your aquarium. So you want to use plants in all aspects of your aquarium. And what I mean by this, you want plants that are submerged growing, you want some that are floating plants, and you also want some growing out the top of your aquarium. So a tank like this, where it's got, this guppy grass, it's got a little bit of duckweed up the top, I think, and it's also got these plants growing out the top. That really does help suck out any of the excess nutrients, and it does prevent a lot of algae growth. And then the other way you can reduce the nutrients in your aquarium is just diluting your water through water changes. So doing about a 20% water change every week or so is a great way to just strip all the excess nutrients out of your aquarium, and it will dilute the water column and make it a lot harder for the algae to grow. So yeah, with that being said, making sure you don't have an excessive amount of nutrients in your aquarium is another great way to prevent or get rid of green water algae. Moving on to the next tip of how you can get rid of green water algae in your aquarium, it's going to be increasing your filtration. So there's a few reasons increasing your filtration can actually prevent the growth of green water algae in the first place. So usually algae, including green water algae, don't really like fast flow environments. So if you've got an aquarium with plenty of oxygenation, like sponge filters, air stones, all that running, it usually makes the environment just undesirable for the algae to grow in. On top of that, algae actually uses carbon dioxide to grow. So if you're pumping your water with oxygen from the filtration, that's just stripping the water of any carbon that the algae can actually use. So again, it just makes the environment undesirable for the algae to grow. And the benefit of that is it actually isn't like dangerous for your fish whatsoever. You don't want to be pumping too much oxygen into your water. That can be a little bit dangerous, but increasing the oxygen is generally good for your aquarium fish. It makes them a lot healthier, a lot happier. And then another reason that this actually helps stop the growth of green water algae in your aquarium, when you have good filtration, it helps control the nitrogen cycle. So it'll make sure that there's no excess nitrites or nitrates which the algae can actually use to grow. So yeah, with that being said, increasing your filtration in your aquarium should most of the time help prevent or get rid of green water algae in your aquarium. And then moving on to the final tip on our list, I briefly mentioned this one in the nutrient level 1, and that's making sure you're doing plenty of water changes. So green water algae is so fast, it expands rapidly, and as soon as you get some in your water, it's pretty much too late. You're not going to be able to like do, you know, a 50% water change and get some of it out. You do need to do like a full 100% water change, rinse out your gravel, make sure that there's no green water algae spores left in your aquarium. And that is pretty much the only way you can strip it out, through water changes. So yeah, if you notice it growing in your aquarium and you don't have too much patience, then definitely just do a full 100% water change. It'll 100% get rid of it. But in saying that, you do want to make sure that, again, you don't have too many nutrients when you fill your tank back up and your lighting's not too intense. Otherwise, the green water algae is just going to grow once again. But yeah, with that being said, doing plenty of water changes is another great tip that you can use to help get rid of any green water algae growing in your aquarium. So that is actually going to bring us to the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope this video helps a few of you guys out. If you did enjoy today's video and you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down and subscribe, and while you're down there, smash the like button and comment your thoughts on today's video. I always love going down there and reading them all, and I try to reply back to as many as I can. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to go check out my website, aussiefishkeeping.com. I've got all sorts of fish, botanicals, and other aquarium products up there. But yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you all in that next video.